Yeah. Megan Munsell with
Brittany Rucker.
Brittany Rucker, a.k.a. Slimthick.
A.k.a. Slim664. Follow me on Instagram. With Bear Barbell, I am the head coach and the owner here.
Okay, cool. You just started your own club.
Yeah, so I was running another club here in San Antonio, and essentially kind of the way things were going, I kind of didn't feel like I was really fulfilling who I wanted to be as a person and a coach. And, you know, when that happens, you can sit there and you can fight and you can struggle and you can try to keep running something alongside someone else, and really nobody's winning. You know, somebody wants to go one place, somebody wants to go another.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? It's hard to sit there and branch out from something you've only ever known. Before doing this, I was a paramedic for 9 years, and making that leap, quitting my job.
When did you quit your job?
Let's see. This past January was 2 years.
Okay.
So when I graduated high school, went straight into EMT school, wanted to make a difference. Is really just what I wanted to do. I love the medical field. Being able to specialize in one specific career field is just cool, and being able to help people. So I worked for anyone's familiar with Texas, Medina County for 4 years. 911, got in with Wimberley, the city, worked there for 5 years, did both kind of balance. TSS was still growing, still starting. So I was able
coaching.
to...
Coaching and working.
Coaching and working. So I was a paramedic 2 days a week. Paramedic 2 days a week, and then I coached the other 4, managed a lot of the back end side of the business, started taking on athletes, and honestly, the business just exploded.
Yeah.
So I essentially got called into my boss's office and told to choose. Like, hey, look, you know, you got a steady income, you got a 401k. Like, we don't know why you're doing the side hustle. We pay you enough. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they're like, you need to pick, because, you know, we try to call you in for overtime and you're busy coaching, or you travel to these meets. Even though you're using your PTO, we want you to be a paramedic. And I'm like, cool, I quit. And it was scary. I woke up with anxiety every day for 2 weeks. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what? Like, things work themselves out. I'm a really firm believer in just, like, being a good person.
Yeah.
And things always kind of work out. Not religious, but I definitely believe in just being the best person you can be. So TSS grew, things exploded, kind of made that decision. I think the quarantine really made a lot of people wake up and kind of realize what mattered. And the biggest thing that I noticed...
No, I'm just staring through.
Okay, cool.
Don't worry.
No worries. I want to make sure somebody walk in.
No, I'm just thinking.
Yeah. I think it made a lot of people realize what matters. And for me, the people in my life are what I realize matter. And, you know, it's not about making money. It's not about, you know, for a while there, TSS just exploded. Like, at one point, I remember telling people, like, yeah, like, we have 100-something athletes. We had, like, 105 athletes on the team.
That's dope.
And it was just, it got to the point where... it felt like it was turning into a numbers game.
How so?
You know, people like say like, well, you know, we have the biggest team. Like, you know, we have, and it's like, well, it turns into, for lack of better words, like a dick measuring contest. And that's not what it's about. You know, it's about the people, and whether you've got 5 athletes or 10 or 15, it doesn't really matter. It's about like the quality of what you have. And so when all this happened, I really just didn't want to go with the way things are going. Yeah. And I didn't really know what I wanted, but I knew I didn't want what I had.
That's fair.
So, you know, kind of made the decision, just told all of my athletes, like, hey, look, I'm doing this thing. I don't really know how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. And if you want to come, you can come. And if you don't, that's cool. And I told my fiance, like, look, if I fall flat on my face, that's fine. Yeah. If I have 5, if I have 10, if I have 50, it doesn't really matter. Right. I just want to help people. And for so many, this sport is more than just putting the barbell over your head. I mean, it gives you reason, it gives you purpose, it gives you a community. You know, I always joke around, you know, when you PR your lift, like someone could back into your car and you'd be like, you know what, it's fine, just leave your insurance info. Like, it's cool. It's cool to see what this sport can do for people and what it can create. And I've got a kid who is doing the online qualifier for Youth Worlds. Yeah. And it's even the potential of getting his college paid for, you know?
Yeah. So a couple of programs that have popped up.
Yeah.
We had one of the Blue Wave kids is going to Lenore Ryan.
Yeah, and so actually the Bobby Circus reached out to me like, hey, is your kid interested in maybe doing this? So Mario's only a junior, and so I was like, hey, dude, you're wanting, because he wants to go to UT. And I know Dave Griffin runs the UT team. I don't think they do scholarships and stuff.
I don't think so.
At least not at this point.
Correct.
And I told Mario, like, hey, man, look, I know you want to go to UT, but are you open to going elsewhere? And he's like, you know, I don't know. And I'm like, cool, this is an option. Don't stress. Don't think about it yet. but it's an option. You know, and then I've got people who are sober because of this sport, or you know, people who used to go partying all the time and they never hung out with the people that they would hang out with now. You know, they would go out on the weekends, and now they're surrounded by this really good group of uplifting people who are supportive no matter what they're lifting. And I feel like a lot of coaches get really caught up in their best athletes. They get caught up in the people who go to finals and go to nationals. Don't get me wrong, like, that's important. It shows definitely that you know how to build an athlete.
Yeah.
But getting someone from an empty barbell, you know, to the green plates, to the yellow plates, to the red plates, it's huge. You know, we ran an event this morning to raise money that, you know, Megan and Vicky came down to support. And I came home and hopped out on a Zoom call to do a private with one of my athletes, and she PR'd her snatch. And she was like, oh my God, like, I just snatched the equivalents of the yellow plates.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man, like,
Nailed
that's
it.
cool. So
I don't, you know, my journey over the past few years, people will always be like, yeah, but you're good, or yeah, but you're this, and yeah, but you're that. And straight up, like, if a coach was to give me more attention because of my total, I honestly would probably respect them a little less.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's some coaches out there who, I don't know if it's insecurity or what it is, but to me, there's nothing cooler than starting somebody who has never touched a barbell. And what's so cool is getting someone who's never lifted and you teach them the fundamentals, right? Actually understanding mechanics and movement and getting them their first snatch. And they drop the bar and they look at you and you're like, all right, you just snatched for the first time.
Nailed it.
And they're like, that was so cool.
Nailed it. Yeah. Cool.
Like, yeah. And so, I don't know, like, if you develop an athlete, I get it. But then you can always be better.
I think you could be any person can be better at anything and everything at any moment in time.
Right. Like, there's no way, like, your coach should be like, hey, Megan, you snatched 90 today.
Nailed it. Good job.
Good job.
We're done.
You can quit. You're done.
We got it.
You did it. You know, even like, you know, look at someone like Maddie or De La Cruz. Like, at no point is Spencer or Amy ever like, all right, excellent job. My work here is done. You are perfect.
Yeah, it's true. I think, so we talked earlier about how I work with Mike Fitzgerald.
Right.
And Mike, you know, Mike tells me all the time that his job as a coach is to help an athlete accomplish their goals.
Right. And whatever that goal is, it doesn't matter.
Whoever.
It doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't matter.
And that's what I always ask new athletes. So whenever I take on new athletes, I always talk to them. Like, I'm never like, all right, here's your program. Like, have fun, go for it. If they're remote, we have a phone call. I coach just over 70 athletes personally. I'm in the process of interning and teaching 2 new coaches to start taking on athletes, because at a certain point, my product becomes diluted. And then I'm not able to give that same product to my existing athletes. So I make more money, sure, but that's not what it's about. So it turns into like, I completely sidetracked what we were talking about.
You're trying to build your team. You got more coaches coming.
Oh, got more coaches coming. New athletes. So when I talk to them, I'm like, all right, cool. And they're like, all right, well, these are my numbers. This is what I snatch. This is what I clean and jerk. And I'm like, all right, cool. What do you want to do? And they're like, what do you mean?
What's your goal?
I'm like, what do you want to do with this sport?
Who cares?
Like,
Let's go.
do you want to qualify for series? Do you want to qualify for finals? Do you just want to be a better person?
Yeah.
And I'll even joke around with people, and they're like, well, I want to lose weight and this and this. I'm like, yo, the thing, at the end of the day, everybody wants to look better naked for the most part.
I don't know if weightlifting, I don't know if this is that sport, but
Yeah, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's not a bad thing to be like, yeah, I want to look a little better. But even, like, how many athletes I know that will be like, man, like, my back has gotten huge.
it's fair.
It's funny that it's not in weightlifting. It's not like, oh, look at my abs. It's like, oh, look at my legs.
My legs are fucking huge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or like, look at my back.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool, too, to coach females because it empowers them.
Yeah. So side note real quick, I was talking to Vic yesterday about, we often have conversations about like CrossFit versus weightlifting.
Right.
Not verse, but just
Comparison.
contrast.
Yeah.
And I was talking about, okay. And I was like, yeah, like in CrossFit. Oh, I know what it was. So Vicky's been looking for new jobs.
Okay.
And we were talking about, because we're both in IT.
Right.
So we were talking about what happens if she could get a job at a tech company in Austin.
Okay.
And we're like, what would we do? I'm
right.
Because the job that I work at, I can't transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I could just coach.
Right.
Like, I probably would just like reach out to a gym and be like, hey, can I coach?
Right. Just to make some cash. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just figure it out. Or a personal trainer or whatever. And she's like, oh, well, would you want to do like CrossFit coaching? Or would you want to do weightlifting coaching?
Because you do both.
And I was like, I'd probably do weightlifting.
Yeah.
She was like, why? And I was like, because the thing about CrossFit is like when new people come. Oh, she was like, oh, would you be against coaching like new athletes, like
Right.
beginner athletes? And I was like, no,
Right.
not in weightlifting,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah,
But like
no.
new CrossFit athletes typically come in because they want to lean their arms, lean their legs, lose weight. Like
It's an aesthetic thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But weightlifters, especially even women, but women and men both, they walk into a weightlifting gym.
Nobody walks in to lose weight.
They walk into a weightlifting gym to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
They want to feel strong.
Right.
They want to feel
Or a part of something.
Empowered.
Yeah.
Right? Like rarely do you have an athlete walk into a weightlifting gym on the first day and be like, hey, I just came here to like tone up my arms.
Yeah.
Like they know that because you see weightlifters at the Olympics or on USAW or whatever, social media, and none of them are like shredded,
No.
right?
There's a few, but it's usually, I hate to say this, but it's genetics.
Yeah.
Some of them have, or just, not that they don't work really hard.
Or they chose that.
Correct.
It's not, the sport naturally doesn't develop that.
No, it's like you look at someone like so Courtney Batchelor's my coach, right? You look at someone like Court, right? And she does have these huge backs and these like this huge back and these huge traps, but she doesn't look like what you would stereotypically call an athlete. But then she lifts, and you're like, oh my god.
Or Kate and I.
Yeah.
I don't think people.
Like, if you see her at the grocery store, you're not going to be like, man, I bet she snatches 114 kilos.
Yeah, like nobody has ever, like, first of all, Kate and I's amazing as an athlete, undoubtedly. But I don't think no one's ever walked into the gym and been like, hey, Megan, can you help me look at Kate and I?
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
But people want to feel strong.
Right.
And so it's like in CrossFit, I'm constantly trying to convince these athletes that there's more important things than abs, which they may or may never have.
Yeah, and it changes your identity. I had an athlete who joined, and like straight up her social media was all like bodybuilding selfies, you know, kind of a little bit of the thirsty stuff. And when she joined, I'm like, look, you're going to change as a person. Like, you are going to feel more confident to where you feel like you don't need to post pictures like that. You're going to be proud of your lifts. You're going to want to post your lifts. You're not going to post a selfie. You're going to be like, look at this. And I've always told athletes, I'm like, you want to be known for the weightlifter that is strong or that is like inspirational, not the one who just looks good in little booty shorts. Like, that's cool and that's great, but
it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you worked hard for anything.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think confidence comes from hard work.
Oh yeah, I've been an athlete my entire life. You know, I played basketball, almost went to college for basketball. You know, got into motocross, and I've never felt who I am as a person is because of this sport. As an athlete, who I am as a coach is because of how this sport has developed me as an athlete. It's made me confident, and it's made me be able to, you know, even stand up to people or stand up for myself. Like, even when all this happened, it was scary, right? I just straight up was like, you know what? I think so much of TSS I associated myself with, and my name and my brand and who I was, and I wasn't okay letting that go because I thought I was no one without it. And
it's honest.
And yeah, I felt like if I'm not TSS, who am I? And I even started looking for paramedic jobs. Like, I was like, you know what? I'll just get back on an ambulance because I am no one without this. And when I told athletes, like, hey, I'm doing my own thing, they're like, all right, what are we going to call ourselves?
Yeah.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
They did not care. They're like, all right, cool, let me buy some shirts. And I'm like, I haven't even made shirts. And like, yo, I want shirts. And that's, I think, what's really empowering is
Why'd you pick Bear Barbell?
So
I think it's a catchy name. I want to support that, but I'm also curious.
So I have this guy. His name's Mark Broderick. He's a graphic designer. I don't know his actual job title, but he does all of our artwork. He's done artwork for me forever. With TSS, like, he was our guy. And I talked to him about it, and we kind of like spitballed names and stuff. And I didn't want it to be about me. Like, I didn't want to have anything to do with my name or my initials or anything. And I wanted it to be like geographical.
Yeah.
So San Antonio's a mouthful. I didn't really want it to be South Texas. So I wanted it to be more like centralized, right? So he kind of spitballed, you know, Bear. And I was like, you know, like, no one knows how to pronounce it. There's an X and like, it's confusing. And I kind of didn't really think about it. And then I think the meaning behind things is really important. So I kind of started researching even like bears, right? And so I've always been we talked about this earlier. I have a lot of very extrinsic lifters who are very like, they want to make me proud. Yeah. And so it kind of been joked around that I was like Mama Bear before, right? And my athletes joke around and like, will call me that. And it's like, I'm very like, I would say like protective over my athletes. And, you know, I take care of them. Like, if I was at a meet and someone like, And someone like stepped up to him and be like, hey, like, what do you think you're doing? And so kind of just the meaning behind it and the amount you can kind of play with, like the bear head and whatnot. And then so I was like, all right, Mark, like we can roll with bear barbell. Let's see what logo and stuff you can come up with. And so he's incredible. Like he's amazing.
He has good rates. I mean, we might be interested.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Okay.
He's super good. And so he came up with the bear head. And honestly, he's so patient because I am very picky.
Revise.
Yeah. And
good for
so
you.
I'm like, hey, like that logo's a little low. And he's like, oh. I'm like, please just move it up just a little.
Let's do it.
So he came up with it. And I was like, you know, like let me sleep on it. And I was like, yeah, man, like let's go. Like that's perfect. Like it's geographical. The meaning behind it is great. And then it's like, all right, well, what colors do you want to roll with? And so then I started to think, and I really, you know, I didn't want to. I want to make sure it was different.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the color for 2020 was the Pantone of blue that we picked, and it was about like renewal.
That's the color of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I can't remember what the exact color is called, but so our front doors actually we painted it that color, and there's a wall in our bedroom we painted. It's like that Pantone.
You know, it's actually kind of funny. I've never heard anybody like celebrate 2020
Yeah.
because it's just such a shit show.
Yeah, but
No, I mean, good for you.
yeah.
But but honestly, I've heard so many people just complain about the year that it's like, good for you for just owning it.
Every single situation in your entire life is about what you decide it is. And I understand there were some terrible things that happened, but every single thing is what you make of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I quit my job and I didn't have a steady income and, you know, I didn't have health insurance. And like, yeah, I could have cried. I could have been upset. You know, we all go through things that are rough. You know, we have a bad meet. We have a bad peak. We get in a car wreck. We go through a breakup. But it's so cliche, right? But what you make of it is everything.
Yeah.
And so if you sit here and you're like, you know what? 2020 kind of shit on everybody, but I created this barbell club out of it, and it's empowering. And it's weird. Actually, I had a conversation with my athlete earlier who PR'd both of her lifts over this call. And you know, everyone's like, oh, like your coaching is just so great, and like this and this. And I'm like, I think there's more to it. Like me branching off and created this almost felt to me, it felt like my athletes felt the need to show that I did the right move. Like,
okay.
My athletes have been succeeding. And, you know, there's also this whole aspect that, like, I'm a different person. I'm more confident. I haven't been anxious as much anymore. So I've been more present. But, I mean, I had an athlete, one of my best athletes is out of Florida. And she actually she started lifting. She lifted before, but then she started lifting in about 3 years ago. And she was under this coach. And she was a nurse. Her husband is in the Air Force. He's a pilot. They were long distance. It was really hard on her. She worked long hours. You know, nursing's rough. You work 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And she's in the military too, so it's not like she can just take a day off. And she would drink a lot, and it got to the point to where we were like, hey, you need to lift more days than you drink. And the coach that she had at the time, when Kate, my athlete, came to her and was like, hey, I think I need to quit the sport.
Yeah.
You know, or no, she said, I think I need to go down to 3 days of training. And this coach is like, well, the problem is I don't coach athletes that only train 3 days a week. So you should probably just go to like Orange Theory. You should probably just, you know. And so the athlete was like, Kate was like, hey, like told me like, hey, I'm going to quit lifting. And I was like, I'm just going to coach you. Like, no, you're going to get it together. We're going to do this together. And I'm going to get you where you want to be. And I mean, she was, you know, I used to tell her she lifted like a really special penguin. She was bad. She was really bad. She was 59, snatching 45, maybe clean and jerk and 65 on a good day. And that was 2.5 years ago. And man, she's just been putting in work and chipping away. And last year at AO2, we were set up. We were peaked to qualify for finals. She had cut to 55. It was a perfect cut. You know, the situation kind of sucked. We talked about earlier at AO2 last year because I wasn't able to coach the way I could because I was coaching 26 athletes by myself. And she bombed. And at that point, she could have quit. She could have been like, you know what? I busted my ass for 2 years to try to qualify for finals. I bombed. Not only did I not make the total, I bombed, and she didn't. And she got back in it, and she worked. And she did an online qualifier a month ago, and she qualified.
Hell yeah.
And but it's almost like I needed to take that leap for those athletes to be like, you know what? I got you. Like, I got you. Like, I've got kids who are hitting numbers that, you know, I never thought imaginable. I have a 55. She's 14, and she just cleaned 84. It's just crazy that it's like, you know, they say like lead from the front, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like when you take that leap and you jump, your athlete's like, all right, like let's do this. Like, I got you. I'm going to put up those numbers I've been chasing. I'm going to do it. And it doesn't really matter what it is, but it's just they've been reaching their goals like more, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I also think like, you know, it can also be like inspiring.
Yeah. And it always throws me off guard. Actually one of my teammates now who was just here this weekend, last year at the Arnold, I didn't do how I wanted. And I remember I tried to sneak out like a side curtain so I didn't talk to anybody. And she was standing on the other side of the curtain and she was like, Brittany, like my name's Heather. And I just want to let you know I follow you on Instagram. And like I opened my gym because of you. And I think you're so inspiring. And I was like, dude, I didn't even do that well. And she was like,
that's heavy.
And in my head, I'm like, I'm not even that good, right? And she's like, no, like I did this because of you. One of my athletes who was actually the MC today, Steph, she moved down here from New York and, she told me, she's like, look, like I see how hard you work.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like I can do that. Like I can work that hard. And it always throws me off. And I'll have athletes that ask me like, well, how are you doing? And I don't really like to talk about myself. And they're like, well, why? And I'm like, it feels narcissistic.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, let's just talk about you. Let's talk about how your training is going. And they're like, but how are you doing, coach? And I'm like, I'm fine. Let's talk about you.
That's awesome though.
But yeah, anytime someone tells me that, like, man, like what you're doing is so inspiring. I'm just like, man, it's just me.
That's what I'm saying. I think like, my like mantra for life, especially in sport, is there are scientific data sets that prove I am not the most athletic person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But I want so desperately to prove to myself and prove to other people that hard work wins.
Always.
And, ultimately I have no idea how my career in this sport or any other sport's
does anyone know?
Going to play out. But again, like, when people see that you are trying to outwork, your competition
right.
or yourself or your best effort or
mm-hmm.
whatever, I think people get super inspired by that.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of the reason why, for me, I'm an athlete. Because personally, and this doesn't apply to all coaches, but I feel as if I feel better about how hard I push my athletes if I'm pushing myself harder.
Okay.
I'm lucky that I have a really good coach who understands my goals. And, I trained at a time that I didn't say I was going to train. And Courtney was like, you told me you were going to train at this time, and you didn't. Like, I am trying to get you to your goals, so you have to do what you say you're going to do. And I was like,
the time of the day?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, God. Okay, sorry.
That's awesome, though.
So, if, I know I don't lift the most impressive numbers, but I know I'm going to outwork or work just as hard as my athletes.
What are your goals as an athlete?
So I was doing really well. Really, last year at AO2 is when I started really taking on more at the business with TSS.
Yeah.
So last July, let me see, I've done 68 quite a few times, and I've clean and jerked 80 a couple times.
Okay.
So, for me, I'm chasing 70. Red plates with a collar on the platform is always kind of a cool milestone.
Yeah.
So I was pretty close, and then honestly, coaching just took over. And it's always an excuse, right? I have an athlete who I'll tell her like, oh, that was pretty good. And she's like, it's just an excuse. And so I understand. And so for me, like 70, 85 is like what I want to do next. I know I'm 30 and I would rather get, 10 athletes qualified for finals than ever. I don't have like these big dreams of like going to finals, because I know at the end of the day, every day I have to pick, am I a coach or am I an athlete? And I will pick being a coach every single day. If it comes down to it, at AO2, I coached 26 athletes and I competed. And I hit my opener and I came off the platform and I looked at Courtney and I was like, I don't know what else I have in me. Like my CNS was just
smoked,
just done.
Yeah.
Like I went to go push off the ground in my third pull and there was nothing there.
I think everything is about priority.
Right.
And if your priority is your athlete, I don't necessarily think that that's an excuse.
Yeah.
You'll have to sort of, reconcile that within yourself about like, am I making this an excuse, or am I being, or is this just my priority?
Right.
Like Vicky's lifetime PR snatch is 97 pounds.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know what that is in kilos, but we have a competition who first can snatch. I'm trying to snatch 200 pounds, and she's trying to snatch 100 pounds. And whoever, like if I win, she has to do a marathon row.
Okay.
Which is like 32,000 meters or something.
You better win.
She's obviously, if she put in 5 minutes of work per day,
right,
she could beat me, because she can definitely snatch 100 pounds.
Right.
But it's not a priority.
Right.
It's just not. She just doesn't care.
Yeah, and I feel that way about everything. Like everything is a priority. Like I can tell you my eating could be better, but it's not a priority. And for me, being a coach and being a business owner comes before, unfortunately, almost everything. It's to the point, like, thank God I have such an understanding fiance, because she's like, you need to eat.
Right.
Or a couple days ago, she straight up like closed my laptop and was like, stop working.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, you know, I had this conversation with Dave Griffin a couple days ago. There's a large lack in coaching education, I feel like, across the board. There aren't enough coaches out there. You know, I will get an athlete who's been lifting for 4 to 5 years, and I see them lift, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'll make like 2 tweaks, and they're like, that feels so much better. And that's borderline infuriating for me as a coach, because I'm like, why has no one fixed you? And so to me, everyone like keeps asking me like, oh, when are you going to cap yourself? Like, when are you not going to take on more athletes? And I always kind of like or beat around the bush with the answer, because like I don't think I ever will. I think I'll just find somehow more of myself to give, because until I have coaches under me that can coach at the same level I am, I'm not going to turn someone away from getting quality coaching. But I feel like there is a huge issue with people not understanding how to coach. And I don't know if maybe I feel like that comes from like CrossFit, because like I coached CrossFit for a long time, and I joke around that I wish I could go back and talk to everyone that I taught how to snatch when I was a CrossFit coach and be like, I'm really sorry. Like I had no idea what I was doing. But there's also not, to my knowledge, anyone out there really putting out that education.
For weightlifting?
Yes.
Like continuing education outside of the
outside of like the level 1 and the level 2. And you know, I took the level 1, and I feel like I took it, I don't remember, a long time ago. And I think it was a good base.
Yeah.
But there's no, you know,
I took mine at 210. With help me, what's his name?
Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Galvan.
Yep.
And at the time he was like, I was like lifting, and he was like, okay.
Yeah.
But now I see him all the time, and he's like, hey, homie, like we're best friends.
Right.
And it's actually kind of funny, but.
So 210 was actually where I started weightlifting.
Oh, dope.
So I was a CrossFit coach at a gym here in town called Bedlam. So kind of how I started coaching was I was just a CrossFit athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And I was...
We all were.
Truth. That's not a very good CrossFit athlete. And I stayed after one class to help someone with their handstand push-ups.
Okay.
And the owner, his name's J.A., he came up to me and he was like, hey, Brittany, do you want to be a coach? And I was like, what? And he was like, you have what is it like within you to be a coach?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm a paramedic. Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, look, there's a L1. I want you to go take it, and I want you to be a coach for me. Yeah. And I was like, what are you, like, no.
Yeah, when you're a gym owner, you see, like, leadership in folks. Yeah.
And he just kept pushing. And I was like, you know what, fine, whatever. Started coaching CrossFit, fell in love with coaching. Fell in love with it. It was just, it's crazy, right? And, like, I even, like, thanked, J.A. and Bedlam recently on my Instagram, like, hey, man, like, never forget where you came from. Never forget who's the person who looked at you and was like, hey, you could be somebody. Like, you could do something. So anyway, I was a CrossFit athlete. Didn't even know weightlifting was a sport. Thought it was just part of CrossFit.
Gotcha.
And so one day someone was like, oh, like, yeah, there's a weightlifting meet on TV. And I watched it and I was like, wait, I can just do that?
You're right.
So I went to JA and I was like, hey, I think I just want to be a weightlifter. And he's like, well, we don't have a weightlifting program. So I took my level 1 with Steve, and Steve was like, hey, why aren't you a weightlifter? Like, you actually move pretty well. I did not. But he gassed me up for sure. He gassed me up.
He wants everybody to be a weightlifter.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm a CrossFit coach. He was like, okay, so? And I was like, well, I don't think internally I could coach at one gym and be an athlete at another. It's a conflict for me of interest, I feel.
Okay.
And this was then. Maybe now I'd feel different. I mean, obviously I do. I'm on a different weightlifting team. But I was like, well, I coach. And he was like, well, do you get, how much do you get paid? And I was like, well, I just coach for free because I like it and I'm a paramedic. So it's whatever. I don't care about it. He's like, what if I pay you to coach and you could be a lifter for me? And I was like, I don't know. So I thought about it and, I made the jump. And that's when I was like, you know what? And that was even hard. That was like very much like quitting my job because I loved Bedlam. I loved the athletes. The coaches were amazing. And that's how I got into it, was because of Steve.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah.
That guy. He's come to Blue Wave a few times.
Yeah?
For meets.
Yeah, I don't know many athletes he's still coaching. I know he does real estate.
Correct.
So he
came to qualify himself.
For?
Master some.
Okay.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I fucking love that guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
I don't think when I had my L1 with him, he was just giving me such a hard time about not being a shit weightlifter.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It's funny. Like now, when he's like so friendly with me,
yeah,
I'm like,
you're like, hey, remember you're an asshole?
Remember when you thought I was trash?
Yeah,
he probably would be like, yeah,
yeah, I do remember. So, you know who Tiffany Wohlers is? one of Ursula's lifters. She's a 76.
I want to say yeah.
Okay.
Let's say I definitely know that name, but I'm not necessarily friends
Can't
with
put a
that
face to
person.
it. Okay, so she came. She's actually on. Ursula still coaches her, but she's on CB with Courtney. So she came and dropped in, and we trained in the garage a couple days ago, and we were talking about Ursula. And I was like, yeah, I remember my first run with Ursula. And Tiffany was like, oh, God, like, what was it? And I was like, well, I was at Steve's, and I was doing cleans. And at that point, someone along the lines had told me that my proportions were so that I had to have an armband and clean off my hips. It was really bad. Like, I look back, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Somebody told you had to have an early armband?
Correct. Like, to get into my hip to clean.
Perfect.
So, like, I was like, this is cleaning. It was terrible.
Yeah,
it's really bad. I've deleted all those old videos. But anyway, so Ursula walks in.
You should pull them back out. Like a throwback Thursday.
Yeah, no way. I'd get like 10 like quit emails from athletes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're trash, coach.
You'd be on 0 for 6 lifting.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd make all the
I actually
moves.
have an athlete that made that because
I did.
Yeah, he caught a snatch and it spit him out, and he like Superman across the room. It was great. Anyway, so Ursula walks in, and I'm like, I've always been. I once had a coach tell me confidence has never been an issue. Like when I walk into a meet, even though I'm in like B or C session at a series, I'll look at someone and be like, all right, I'm gonna beat that person.
Let's play. I always say, let's play weightlifting.
Yeah, like let's
People
go.
are like,
I'll go and I'll be like, all right, who's opening like 2 kilos heavier than me? And I'll find them in the back room, and like they don't know it, right? But they're my worst enemy at that moment. I'm like, I'm gonna beat that person. I might just snatch like 65, but I'm gonna beat them. And so Ursula walks in. I'm like, I'm gonna show Ursula how good this 63 kilo power clean is. And she walks in, and I clean that thing off my hips, and she's like, well, that was interesting, and kept walking. And I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and take my shoes off and leave.
I believe it.
Yeah, and Courtney coaches just like Ursula. There was a really good set of cleans I had that I sent Courtney, and I was like, man, but like, did you see how good I did that? And she goes, listen, don't get cocky. And I was like,
nailed it. That's awesome.
I'm like, thanks, coach.
I love when people don't gas me up.
Yeah.
When they like just are like, that was trash.
Yeah.
But the thing too, I actually learned from a coach that pretty much shredded me daily was you can only handle emotionally, no matter how tough you are, you can only handle so much.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
You got to have a shit sandwich.
Yeah, you can only beat down on someone so hard. So there's an athlete that Courtney coaches that used to be under me. Her name's Megan, and she was lifting here going heavy a couple days ago, and she's been like chasing my numbers forever. And
a little rivalry.
She's also like 2 weight classes smaller, so that's not like, don't let her like realize that. But she's chasing my numbers, and so she clean and jerk 76, and it was kind of sketchy. And she was like, "All right, put 78 on the bar," and I was like, "Dude, like you're not good for it." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "You're not good for it." In my head, I'm like, "I know you're good for it," but I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell you you're good for it." And she's one of those athletes that like she almost needs shit talked. At AO2, she broke the state record, and then Mr. Opener on clean and jerk. And I sat her down and just ripped into her. Like, ripped her up and down. I literally told her.
It's good sometimes.
Yeah, well, I told her she made her next 2 lifts.
Yeah.
I was like, you're wasting my time. Like, I'm lifting tomorrow, and I'm standing here on my feet, wasting my athletic potential because you don't know how to make lifts. I'm like, yeah, you broke a state record, but nobody's going to remember your state record when you go bomb on clean and jerk. Nobody's going to remember. You think you're so cute in your singlet? No one's going to remember that. Just you bombing.
Oh
she got so mad. She went and hit her next 2 ones. And then we sat down. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I've never been that mean to anyone. And I'm really sorry if you're offended. But, like, hey, it worked.
I can't imagine how I would handle that.
And I don't think I'll ever tell you that. But
What?
It was a huge risk. But she's also 10 years younger than me.
I was lifting with Mary one time. And I was lifting with Mary one time. And she was like helping me with my warm-ups or something. So I started like going for it. So I did like 55, 65, and I think I snatched like 65. And I was like stoked, and I go like snatched it. And I'm thinking like, okay, like I'm really applying all these cues. And Mary looks at me and she goes, ugh, gross. She goes, ugh, gross.
Excuse me?
And I was like,
like, I'm just gonna leave.
never mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a balance, and it's about understanding the athlete. Like, I've got some athletes that they do better gassed up.
Yeah.
And then tons of athletes that I have, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, oh, that was okay. And they're like, I think that was pretty good. I'm like, it was okay. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, babe, guess what so-and-so did today? They snatched 80 kilos and it was beautiful. Like, it was fine. It was okay. I don't want to like go write in my diary about it.
I'm not gonna put it on Instagram.
No, I'm definitely not. Like, I'm just gonna delete that video off my phone.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance as a coach and knowing what that athlete needs. If that athlete needs gassed up, if they need tore down, or they just need like sometimes athletes just need a homie in the back room.
That's fair.
Like sometimes they just need like, hey, like we got this. Like we're in this. Let's go.
How do you feel about being a female coach?
So I definitely feel like it's hard. But I don't feel like it's as hard as a lot of people make it out to be. Okay. I've had one instance where a coach, or not a coach, a father and a son walked into our gym at TSS and was like, hey, I'm looking for a coach. I'm like, cool, my name's Brittany, and they're like, well, can we talk to the other coach? And I was like, yeah. So I went and got him. And they're like, well, like, where's the male coach? And we were like, yo, we ain't got a male coach. I feel like it's different. I definitely feel like I'm able to relate more to my female athletes.
Yeah.
And it also, you're able to be like a role model for them and be like inspiring. Males, it's a little different. Like you have to be careful. You always have to be careful when you're coaching males because you never want like to get, I don't want to say too close, but you never want to put off like those like you can get close to a female as a female, but as a female coach, you never want to like cross that boundary with a guy and let them even like think like you're interested, I guess.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where you were headed.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I didn't know if you were like saying like you didn't want them to like get a big head.
No,
but you meant like in a romantic way.
Yeah, exactly. Because like female to female, I feel like it's like more like, I don't want to say normal, but as a guy, when a guy gets attention from a female, sometimes they think like, oh, like they're into
gay?
me. Yeah, guys, sometimes they shoot in the dark. It happens. And I say that because when we first started, I had an athlete who was, he was one of my first athletes, and I coached him for like a year or two. And one day he was like, hey, I need to have a conversation. I'm like, all right, cool. And he was like, I love you. And I was like,
damn.
Oh, fuck. Well, now I can't coach you anymore.
You just made this weird. Thanks.
You just made this weird.
Thanks.
I feel like it's different now that I'm engaged and that they know Kayla and they're around her. I had one instance. So actually, this is a funny story. The reason Will and I are friends is because I had some guy get in my face at AO2. So I was in the back room. I was walking into this meet knowing I had to coach a bazillion athletes. It was 73E session. Thursday at 8 a.m. And I'm like, you know what? I'm coaching. I think I coached every session except 2. Like I took someone to weigh-ins, or I competed. I was coaching during my weigh-ins. Like in between snatch and clean and jerk, I ran to weigh-ins and I was like, hey guys, I'm really sorry, but I need to cut. And they were like, you know what's fine, like go. I was in the back and I had a master's athlete and a youth athlete that I was coaching. Very different numbers.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
In that session.
Yes. And neither were my athlete. I was just coaching them for someone else.
Yep.
And I was standing in the back and they were warming up and I had this guy come up to me and he was like, hey, I need you to not walk across my platform. And I was like, excuse me? And my athletes love this story because it just shows like part of like this other part of me that not many people see. And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, don't walk across my platform. And I was like, who are you? And he was like, I'm just telling you, like, not to walk across my platform. And I was like, hey, man, is this your first national meet? And he was like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, actually, it's pretty obvious that this is your first national meet because he was like, well, you can just walk all the way around like everyone else. And I was like, dude, I'm walking next to your platform in between the plate rack and the platform to see the card table because I have 2 athletes competing. I'm coaching by myself. And I didn't have a loader because all my athletes were competing later and I didn't let them load.
I wouldn't have even acknowledged that. But.
So he got in my face and I'm like, hey, dude, like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Go away. And he really got in my face. I'm like, I'm going to get the meet director. He was like, oh, you know the meet director? And I'm like, yeah, man.
Phil?
It was Joaquim with High Desert.
Mm.
So I was like, hey, Joaquim, can you come here and like handle this? And Joaquim, if you don't know who he is like the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah.
Super nice. And so he tells the guy like, hey, look, like this is just a weightlifting meet and this and this. And it's funny, Joaquim came up to me later and gave me this patch. And it's the New Mexico State Championship 2018 first place. Gave me this patch and he was like, hey, like I found this in my bag. Like, here you go. I think it was like a peace offering.
Yeah. So
I have it pinned on my wall because it reminds me of that meet where I feel like things changed for me as a coach.
Was it Albuquerque?
Yes.
Got it.
So anyway, later on in the meet, that same guy was sharing a platform with Courtney. Like, and Courtney was coaching. And I walked over there to like give Courtney something, and then I walked away, and then the guy came over to apologize. And I'm like, hey man, look.
Maybe it was a tough cut.
He was a coach.
Oh.
And he had one athlete there.
Oh.
In 73E. No offense against 73E, but like, come on, buddy. So this guy was like, hey, I'm really sorry, like this and this. And I was like, look, dude, all I'm going to tell you is you need to be careful who you're talking to because you don't know who I am. I could be someone important. I could not, but you don't know. And that's my point. I was like, you see the person you're sharing a platform with, that other coach? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, cool. She's on, I think she's on the ethics board or she's on one of the boards with USAW.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're going to piss off.
Right.
And you don't want to piss people off in this sport because it's such a tight-knit group of people.
That's fair.
So I was like, I could be no one or I could be someone important, but I'm giving you advice that you need to kind of learn your place. Like, man, I remember my first meet, and I remember not having any clue what's going on.
Yeah.
But you can't just come off as someone you don't know really aggressive like that.
Yeah.
But so bringing back to your point, if I was a dude, he would have never done that.
Probably not.
No way. No way. And before I would say people knew at least who I was kind of at meets, it was hard. Like you'd be standing at the card table and some dude would just stand in front of you and you're like, hey, I'm like 5'3", man.
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to see the cards. I think it's hard. You know, we're all insecure, right? And I think it's hard when you have those insecure moments, but the more this sport has developed me as a person, and the stronger and more secure I've gotten, the more I don't even like think about the fact that I'm a female. Because at the end of the day,
it doesn't really matter.
Me being a female doesn't change my knowledge. It doesn't change how I know how to move a barbell. It doesn't change my understanding of the human body or my understanding of humans in general, because there's so much more than just understanding how to move a bar when it comes to this sport.
Yeah.
So is it hard? Sure. Is it hard being gay and being a female? Sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the thing that I love about this sport is that you compete in a gender, you compete in a weight class, and you compete in an age bracket. And nobody cares what singlet you have on or if you have the new Rebel
I don't know.
804s.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I'm always looking for a good singlet.
Yeah,
but I see what you're saying.
Like, it doesn't matter.
No.
You know, and you see, like, I had two 81s yesterday do the online qualifier, and one of them's like 5'6" and one's 6'1". You know, they both hit the number, though. And it doesn't matter because, and that's what's so cool about this sport is that a kilo is a kilo.
Yep.
And whoever lifts the most, whether they're on Juggernaut or on Catalyst or on some team you've never heard of, a medal's a medal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think...
I like coaching boys. Sorry, an aside.
I do. I like coaching guys. I think there's less... no, there's still emotions. I like coaching kids.
Really?
So I have a really strong youth team.
That's awesome.
It's super cool. So I've got, let me see. I've got 2 kids that are doing the youth online qualifier. I have Youth Worlds.
Oh, 2.
I have 2. So Mario's a 67.
Yep.
He's 16. He turns 7 soon. He turns 17 very soon.
Yeah.
He just went 111, 150. So what's cool is if my calculations are right, if we total 3 more kilos than that, our trip is actually potentially paid to Peru. Because he'd be top 5 in the world.
What is that?
260 Funded, yes. I got him a couple years ago when he came and did one of our meets.
Sometimes the coaches aren't funded.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'll pay for it. I don't care. I'll do a GoFundMe.
We'll figure it out.
I'll go start donating plasma again. Like, it's whatever. His little sister, I say little.
His sister. They got genetics.
There's 3 of them.
Dope. They got, how's the littlest?
11.
Oh, we got him. Nail him.
So Brianna's 59. She just went 68.95.
We gotta get one of like those big raccoon traps.
Yes.
Put it outside the house and just.
Well, no, I've already got Daniel. I coach him too. So
all 3.
Yes.
Perfect.
So actually, there's a video of me after Daniel hit his. I made an 11-year-old who is a 36 take a 6 kilo jump at state to break the state record, and he hit it. It was a 5 kilo PR, and there's a video of me literally picking him up and putting him over my shoulder.
That's awesome.
So I have those 3. Anna is one of my local ones. She is 15. She just turned 15. She's a 55. She's the one that just cleaned 84. She snatches 61, 62, and clean and jerks 80 regularly.
Let's go.
It's just, it's just cool. Like, so it's funny. I always listen to Halsey when I train. It's just like the artist.
Oh, Halsey.
However you pronounce it. Halsey.
I don't know how you say it, but that's how I say it.
Yeah, Halsey's great.
I train alone, so in my reality, whatever I say is
It's
truth.
the rule. Yeah. So Anna really never has music because I get her videos.
Yeah.
And when she sent me those PR clean videos, she was listening to Halsey. And I was very like, oh.
Soft spot.
like my heart.
Be still, my heart.
Yeah. I mean, I love kids. I love coaching everybody. I mean, the oldest I coach is 72. His name's Eddie. And I love coaching him too because he'll go brag to like his buddies. Like, yeah, man, like
The VFW.
look at this video. Yeah. He's like, look what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love coaching, whether they're beginners, they've never touched a bar. And it's like, hey man, this is, your first snatch, or, you just qualified for finals.
Yeah.
It's just cool. And the great thing about, remote coaching is you can coach people everywhere. About half the people I coach are remote. Some of my best athletes are remote. And it's really hard being a remote athlete.
Yep.
I mean, you get it. You're with Max remote. I'm with Court remote. I think having a coach, for lack of better words, who gives a fuck is really important. And a coach who understands you as a person, and you're not just a template in a program. And you're not just, a lot of coaches, I think if you're like out of sight, out of mind, it's just like, all right, you pay me this much money a month and here's your program.
Or the online teams.
Yeah, or like the online teams. And most of my remote lifters fly in a couple times a year to come train with the team or work with me one-on-one. I'll do privates over Zoom. We do pretty in-depth video analysis that really helps pick apart that stuff.
Like
too.
Coach's Eye type stuff.
Yeah, so we use Slack, and so what I do is I have all my athletes upload videos, and then sometimes I'll give like written typed feedback, and then sometimes I'll upload them into Coach's Eye and really slow them down and break things down in a way that I think, and this is a conversation I've gotten into with Courtney, to where I feel like a lot of coaches overcoach, and so they'll give you 100 things to think about when really you need like 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist,
right?
But I know as an athlete, if I'm thinking about, I can probably pick 2 things per lift.
But that's it.
And I'm like, okay, like I really am pretty bad about having my hips shoot up. So I'm like, okay, really, really try to like keep your hips down. And then like, maybe I'll be like, be patient through the pull or make sure you're setting your feet up or whatever. But I got to pick 2.
Yeah, that's it. Because if you're thinking of a million things, not only 2 things you can fix, 2 things you can work on, 10 things you can't. And so when you feel like you're constantly chipping away at this laundry list of cues, you're never winning.
Right.
And you're always having confidence issues. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with athletes whose coaches kind of overcoach is they're not confident because there's always something wrong.
Right.
Even if there's 10 things they're working on and they get 5 right, there's still 5 they're not.
Right.
And I think maybe it comes from me being a paramedic for so long is that coaching...
Triage.
Correct. Yeah. But it's the truth, though.
100%.
Like, when I see someone lift, I'm like, all right, cool. Where's their foot pressure? Where are their shoulders? Where's their hands? Let's look at that.
Yeah.
Because, I had someone drop into the gym that's on another team, and she was lifting, and it wasn't very good. And I was like, hey, can I tell you something, or do you want me to fuck off?
Yeah.
I don't care. I will not be offended if you don't want me to coach you, but I can tell you something small that's going to fix your snatch. And she was like, yeah, please. I'm like, cool, move your hands in. I was like, your hands are super wide.
Yeah.
And she's a remote coach, and if you don't get the right angle, it's hard.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, move your hands in like literally like 3 inches on each side. And she looked at me.
3 inches?
They were super wide.
Okay.
And she moved them in, and she snatched and dropped it and looked at me, and I was like,
yep.
That was better.
Sometimes I see people's setups on the gram, and I'm like,
what are you doing?
How's no one saying something to you?
Right.
I mean, it's not going to be me, but...
Yeah. But if you're on one of those remote teams where you just get a program and you don't have a coach watch videos, or, I had an athlete that I coached that her coach was older, and he would watch videos, but it was a learning curve. And so if you're not used to technology, I could see it being very difficult to try to fix things.
I see.
Or, I will say one thing, Courtney is really great about when I send her videos, she almost always has her phone on her. So it's borderline like immediate feedback. Do I have to rest maybe a little bit longer than I would want to? For sure. But usually I'll send her a video and she gets right back to me. And that's why, when we do it with Slack, I'll think like, all right, my athletes train. Most of my athletes are on 5 days, some are on 4. And so Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, I always log in and check videos and give feedback so they have something to work on like the next day. But if you're never getting feedback and you're just on a template, you might have this one really bad habit that is never going to get fixed.
Right. I jumped. So I hurt my Achilles doing some CrossFit stuff.
Was it doing box jumps?
No, it was just running.
Okay, I was thinking what unfortunately happened to Fouché. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, but I was doing double unders and running back in the same workouts like a lot of times, and so I was having some Achilles tendinosis. I do this thing where I don't tell my coaches that I have an ailment until
I have a couple of those.
until it's so bad that I cannot lift.
Yeah.
It's like, in my mind,
You're
I'm
not like, hey, this is bugging me.
yeah, like I'm like, okay, I'll just train through it. I'll just train through it until I literally can no
It'll
longer.
get better or it won't.
I'm like, well, now at this point, I can no longer train.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them that I cannot complete the programming that they gave me.
Right.
And
then I'm a failure.
And then my coach is like, holy so then I go and get like, you know, an MRI or whatever, and they're like, yeah, you have destruction of the tendon. Congratulations.
Right.
Anyways, so I had this Achilles injury, and what had happened was it was like messing with the flexion and loading in that leg.
Right.
And so I started pulling that leg back. So I would just pull, but I would only pull Kelly Weil.
Yeah.
I would only pull one leg back.
Right.
I would pull my left leg back.
I actually had an athlete use that as a verb once. She was like, I'm just kind of Kelly Wildman out here. And I was like, man, I know it's exactly what you mean, man.
Yeah. And so I would always pull that left leg back.
Yeah.
And I had that habit I do it sometimes now if it gets really heavy, if I'm really tired.
Yeah.
But
Did it ever transfer over into hip issues?
well, who knows if the hip issues are from that or who knows?
I mean, that stuff's all connected, right?
Yeah.
So that's why when an athlete tells me
Is that
something.
does that make my knee swell? Who knows?
Yeah. It's all connected, right?
Yeah, but so I did it for like a year and nobody
Fixed it.
corrected it. And I
Man,
was-
it'd be really interesting to see almost like you're getting into like neuromuscular stuff, but like the changes that would happen, like if your development from one side to the other.
oh yeah.
Like if the other side it would just be interesting to be able to see that stuff. I don't know. I find stuff like that like really. Have you ever really looked much into or learned much about like the velocity-based training stuff?
Well, I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes, I have looked into it.
Okay.
No, I'm not an expert.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I didn't expect that. So I
I
started.
don't like to overpromise.
No.
If I say I know, if I say something that like I'm usually very convicted in
Right.
it. But
I
if
definitely can pick up on that. Like when you're looking at my fence.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would have put up trim pieces, but
So I follow Will Fleming, and he posts a lot of stuff. And for me, there is that subjective part of weightlifting that is like, well, how does that feel? And then I think it would be so I ordered a velocity-based trainer from Rep 1.
oh dope.
Because that's what Will Fleming has. We talked about it a little bit. I think it's cool to more dive into the objective side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you feel terrible, but you're moving at a proper speed that would allow you to lift heavier.
Yeah. So I work with Mike Fitzgerald, and so so like feelings are amazing, right?
Right.
And if an athlete feels like absolute garbage, maybe you need to take a rest day.
Right.
But also, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter how you feel.
No.
Because, like, okay, if I go train at 5 o'clock in the morning with my friend Randy, I'm going to feel like doo-doo. I'm going to feel like absolute garbage. I'm going to feel awful.
Right.
Does that make me any less fit or
Nope.
capable or strong than I feel at noon or 2 p.m.? Or I typically am training right now around 5:45 p.m.
Right.
Is there any difference in my physical capacity?
Right.
No,
No.
none whatsoever. So it's like, to a certain degree, if my leg feels swollen, I maybe should take a day off.
Mm-hmm.
But to other degree, if I feel a certain way, it's not quantifiable. Like, you got to just let it go. You
Right.
got to say
It's subjective.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't care how you feel.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. And, I've had athletes come in and they're like, well, I'm just having an off day. And I'm like, cool. So you have two options. You either leave and go home.
Yep.
And because, like, no matter what, you're going to bring down the vibe. Because
Yep.
everyone here's, like, everyone comes into the gym and you don't know what that day was. If they worked 8 to 5, if they were in school all day, or if they sat on their couch all day because it was a day off. But everyone's here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes one toxic person, one bad attitude to bring down everything. And
Yeah.
I'll tell them, like, hey, like, you can get over it and lift, or you can go home.
I mean, I've been that guy before.
I mean, everyone's been that guy.
Yeah, just like toxic to the room.
Yeah.
You're just tantruming because
Yes.
you missed your like I missed 55.
Yeah.
One time I missed at States in the back. I missed 35. But anyway.
So, funny story. This made me realize that.
But what I'm saying is, yeah. And sometimes you have to self-recognize and leave
Yeah.
for the sake of the
Sometimes you
group.
have to walk away. I mean, at AO3, I had a really bad meet, and after my snatches, I was really upset.
Yeah.
And Courtney sat down next to me, and she was like, "You have 5 minutes to be upset, and then you're done, and you have to clean a jerk." And so I walked into the back where no one could see me, and I threw my belt onto the ground like angrily, and I like stood there, and I like thought about it, and I picked it up, and I went and cleaned her jerks.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like, you have to self-recognize, or you have to have a coach that can recognize and have a conversation with you that also isn't abrasive. Like, you can't be an ass. You
Yeah.
can't be like, hey, get the fuck out of here.
I think in the sport, I think in our sport, we don't talk about mental training enough.
No,
And
100%.
And I think it's like an untapped market.
Yes.
Like obviously nutrition's huge because
Right.
we have to make weight.
Right.
And obviously your physical capacity is very, very important because otherwise you can't go lift. But if you are not mentally training to be the toughest motherfucker in the room, you will lose.
Oh, 100%.
Because,
It doesn't matter how good you are with
yeah,
the bar.
because, okay, you have an E session
Right.
at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, mentally you're not 100% there
No.
because your weigh-in's at 6.
Right.
Okay? And maybe it's after a cut.
Right.
And so physically
And
you're
you
not...
just flew in the day before because
Yeah.
you couldn't get off work.
Okay, you got to understand that at your lowest point, I got to hit my best possible numbers. And are you training for that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no one does. So that's something I actually just was posted about on Instagram. So I'll tell my athletes, like, look, like, I don't care what your max is. I don't care what you've hit one time in your entire life. It's not impressive to me. And I will preach, like, we work on your base. I want to know what you can hit on any day rough. One of my athletes, Nicole, her max is 76. She's a 71, just hit 76 recently, but she just came off a rough 4-week cycle. Didn't deload, didn't taper. She had to go to a wedding down in the valley, and we woke up Friday morning at 8 a.m. and I'm like, all right, let's go train. You're maxing out.
Hell yeah.
And she was like, what? I'm like, we're going to find out what your base is.
Yeah.
She went 76, 90, barely missed like 95. And I'm like, all right, cool. So you know you can hit 99% of what your max is right now on a rough day. That's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what you can do once. What can you do? I don't want to say every day because it's not like Bulgarian, like Monday through Friday, right? Like, it's like, what can you hit on a day where you walk in and the coach is like, hey, we're going to go heavy today. Like, you know, I had athletes PR today.
Oh yeah, at the
equality liftoff. So one of my athletes, Ethan, he came to me in January, I think, with very interesting technique, and we fixed it and worked on it. And he hasn't snatched over 85 since February. Yesterday, he snatched 100, and his lifetime max was 90 before that. He snatched 102 today on a 10-minute clock.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I love CrossFit style weightlifting events.
But the great thing is, if you ingrain proper movement and like motor patterns and you take away that, you don't get to think on a 10-minute clock. Like, he snatched 93 at 8:50.
I wish so badly that meets were like that.
And then he just slaps 10s on there.
Yeah.
And looks at the clock and it's 9:50 and he took a 9-kilo jump and PR'd by 2 kilos because he didn't get to think.
Let's go.
You if you pull that entire aspect away, so it's almost like it's a way that someone needs to figure out almost how to ingrain that in athletes on a regular basis. And that's kind of what we were talking about with, if you ingrain proper movement in athletes and you teach them how to turn their brain off, who knows what they can do.
Right. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Weightlifting meets are nutrition, physical training, and pressure.
Yeah.
How well do you do on pressure?
Right.
And I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody, and I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, Wikers and I have competed against each other a couple of times recently. And it's like, Wikers, I saw on Instagram hit 90 and 110.
Yeah.
And I haven't hit that recently.
Right.
So if we go the same event, same day, Wikers can beat me. But if Wikers her fucks are low, or she's having a bad day, or she's over it, she doesn't even want to be there, and she misses her lifts, or she misses whatever, I win. I go home. I win.
Right.
Like,
she gets called on a press or something
knows,
weird
right?
happens.
So it's like, you never, ever want that person. Like, you want to go 6 for 6. You want that person to go 6 for 6, and you want to ultimately be the stronger person, and that's what we train for. But ultimately, that's not the sport.
No.
The sport is who mentally prepared for that day.
Right. And
as much as everybody else physically prepared.
Yeah. And it comes down to just kind of like generally being better. I feel like weightlifting also makes you more conscious of your sleep. It makes you more conscious of your stress, of your eating. So all around, if you're just trying to be a better human, you'll be a better weightlifter.
Yeah.
But you never know what's going to happen. It's like we were talking about, when Mary bombed at state and like went in, I knew my athlete was not going to beat Mary Rossi. I'm like, I told Miki, like, hey, dude, look, we can pull a silver. Like, gold is not going to happen. We're trying to qualify for finals, but, like, she's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, Mary's such a, like, sweetheart. And I remember it, like, broke my heart that she bombed. But at the same time, I was like, holy shit. Like,
now we win.
Yeah, now we win.
We win.
We win.
Yeah.
But you never know what's going to happen. When was it Nationals in 15 in Salt Lake when almost all of A session bombed, 85A?
It was like red.
Yeah.
Bloodbath.
Yeah, it was like everyone medaled from B session. Like, you compete in B thinking, like, well, everyone in A is going to beat me.
Was it?
I think it was nationals in 15? 16.
I think it was 16 because I think there were.
It was Salt Lake City.
The trials.
Yes, it was. Then it was 16 in Salt Lake.
When everyone was like desperate for the like.
Yes.
Everyone was making this last ditch effort.
It was
and
just.
just putting dumb numbers on the bar. They're like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, let's. If I bomb, everybody bombs.
Send it.
It's like when Maddie and Meredith were just like duking it out at these crazy. Was it AO2? Yeah, because that was a bronze event.
Yeah.
But both of them bombed.
Yeah.
But it was like, if I go down, you're going down with me.
Oh, recently?
Yes.
At the Arnold?
No.
Last year.
It was AO2 last year.
Yeah.
Because LeChance won.
Yeah.
So LeChance got...
Maddie also bombed at finals.
Yes.
But different.
Yeah. Yeah, like you never know what's going to happen.
Alex is coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. Is she a 76?
I don't know.
She won. Yeah, it's so like, it's like when Maddie went 87 and was like,
she
what?
was 70.
She was. So Meredith, Maddie, and Alex were all 71s.
Because I thought that at finals, Shakesha,
She was a 76.
I don't think she was in the same session with Alex, though. I thought they were on separate platforms.
They were. Shakesha was a 76.
Right.
I remember she
that
snatched, she missed 10.
She hit an American record.
Yeah. Or did she make 10?
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I thought she was on the middle platform. And I
Shakesha was on the middle. I remember watching her.
And
lift.
I thought that Alex was on the
one.
The stage right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been
I think
different
she's
weight
a 71.
I don't know.
But I mean, it comes down to like.
Well, now Maddie's an 87. So
Right. Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. And then is Kate an 87 too? Or is she a 76? 81? I don't even know. She looks like she's put on some mass.
You know what? Kate and I can do whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
I could sit here and be like, well, this is what I think Kate should do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Well, you never know. It's like when Maddie cut, it came out of nowhere. It's like when De La Cruz went down to 49, everyone was like, what? Yeah.
I mean, there's like a, there's like recreational athletes.
Right.
Then which don't have intention of competing.
Right.
Then you have like local, local athletes. And then you have national level athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like the elite motherfucker.
Yeah.
And they're talking about like, let's just add 20 kilos to my body weight. No big deal.
Right. It's not a big deal. Well, so I coached an athlete.
That is a game playing that is well beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, and it's a totally different mental space too. I coached an athlete who dated De La Cruz when they were younger.
Oh, okay.
And he's an athlete too.
Well, Jordan is from Wiley, which is up where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they dated, and at one point Jordan was like, "Hey, well, I have to go train," and he was like, "Yeah, like me too." And she was like, "No, like I actually train," and he was like,
Nailed it. Hell
"Oh,
yeah.
okay." But it's just a totally different, because in her head she wasn't being offensive.
No.
She was just like, "No, like we're kind of playing a different game. Like,
I'm trying to go to the Olympics, bro.
yeah, you're playing checkers, and I'm playing chess. It's just different."
I really like. I mean, I don't know Jordan on a personal level, but I respect the shit out of what she's doing.
She moves very well.
Yeah.
Like there's times that I've been like shown athletes like, look, like this is what I'm trying to get you to do.
Yeah.
Like this part from the knee to here, like
you know
whatever.
what? That's what we're all trying to do is whatever Jordan's doing.
Yeah, just lift like Jordan.
Yeah.
Even sometimes the weight Jordan does.
I mean, her numbers are comparable to mine. And she's substantially smaller.
And she's young.
Yeah, she's a child.
She's 22?
Yeah, college age. I don't even think she's that old.
21 maybe. But she's not a junior anymore, right? Or is she?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. So you're still taking on athletes?
Yes. So still taking on athletes, pretty selective within house. We're in the process of kind of working out another situation to where we might have somewhere else where athletes can train here in San Antonio. I don't really have any goals right now of opening like an actual location. At TSS, I feel like athletes got really spoiled.
Where you would have to rent space.
Yeah, and it's not even about that. I feel like, we were in a situation to where we had 10 platforms. We had Alico. People would share they had their own platform. They had their own bar. They had a full set of Alico plates. and they got spoiled.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had an athlete drop in from Texas Barbell, and he was talking about they have like 6 or 7 platforms, and there'll be 4 people on a platform, and that's just normal. And so I've told my athletes, like, look, like, we're going to get back to what the sport is actually about, and you need to share. One of my athletes shared a barbell with an athlete that was considerably stronger than her and pulled numbers out of her butt, honestly, that she never would have touched if she had a bar to herself. So right now I'm really trying to like just grow the team as it is. Pretty selective about in-house. You know, we have people that are local that have garage gyms that I'm like, hey man, I'll coach you.
Yeah.
Remote is definitely where we're trying to grow just because it's endless. And, you know, it's something to where we can grow a team, and I can coach people here on the platforms, and then I can go inside and coach people separately. So I feel like my coaching can be divided.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Compartmentalize a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not like diluting the products.
Yeah.
So
if people want to be a remote athlete, how they get a hold of you?
DM on Instagram, or you can email. It's just Brittany at barbell.com.
BEXAR.
BEX. Don't just BEAR. Or you can just DM on social media. You know, we actually have a few athletes that also do CrossFit too, like you do, where they do CrossFit and weightlifting. I have a couple athletes that do weightlifting and powerlifting. You know, the great thing with the great thing with, you know, I learned a lot from OPEX is understanding the energy systems and the science, and having like a strength somewhat background. You can kind of program for anything. It just has to make sense.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from, you know, Chris Henshaw?
Yes.
So I was talking to Chris Henshaw a while back, and I was learning a lot about endurance and energy systems and blah, 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 blah. But talking about muscle recruitment and fiber types and stuff like that, and how, like, you know, like, let's say I'm obviously very stocky. So, like, let's say I could say I'm 100% fast twitch, but that's a lie.
Right.
It's probably, even if I was mostly fast twitch, I would probably be like 70% fast twitch.
Right.
So that 30% slow twitch, like, you have to practice recruitment to really utilize 100%.
Right. And you have to, as a coach, be able to understand the difference between fast twitch, slow twitch, looking at athlete and know what they need. Like, when you look at someone, I can look at someone and be like, all right, like, we need to add in some plyo work because they need this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Whereas I can look at another athlete and be like, well, man, like, your mobility is like, you're almost too mobile, so we need more strength work.
Yeah.
It's understanding the athlete and what they need, not just being like, all right, well, here's a 12-week template. Like, have fun. Let me know if you do good.
Yeah. I think, like, to a certain extent, too much aerobic work will be a detriment. Like,
100%.
As you convert fiber types, like, if you are doing so much aerobic work that you're converting fast twitch to slow twitch. But I think that there is an amount of aerobic work in which you are utilizing your fast twitch fibers as is, and now recruiting slow twitch fibers.
Right. And even as a weightlifter, you need that correct balance, because you never know what's going to happen in the back room. You never know if you know, there was one meet I remember I went to where they didn't let anyone in the back room until the 10-minute clock started.
What?
So if you were the first person on snatch, you got 10 minutes to warm up to your opener. And so if you don't have that ability to move fast and warm up fast, you're screwed.
Yeah. I've been practicing lifting with lights in my eyes sometimes to practice for national events.
Yeah?
But that's a whole nother conversation.
Practicing on, like, lifting on an uneven platform, too. You get some, what is it? Is it the red platform that's always a little crooked at the meets? I think it's red. I remember when I walked out of AO2, this is when I, like, felt shot and my CNS was screwed. And I remember being annoyed because the platform was crooked. Like, a little. But I remember
It annoys me every time.
like, walking out, and I, like, was standing on the platform, and, like, the center judge was right here, and I was like, I'm so annoyed.
Yes.
God, this is so annoying.
Yes.
Like, I am not facing the center judge.
I'm not even trying. I mean, maybe it's neurotic, but, like, how hard is it?
I mean, I think they have to put, like, these big straps around the platform and, like, yank on it. I've seen them do it before. It's not just like, ugh.
Did you go to Miami that one year?
No, that was.
Do you remember the Killcliff platforms?
Yes.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, those were pretty rough.
Anyways, anything else you want to get off your chest? Any deep dark secrets?
God, no.
Anything else we can do to support you in your club?
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm just, you know, the biggest thing is, like, I just want to help people, whether that's through weightlifting or whatever. You know, I just love working with small businesses. You know, not trying to shoot out this, but, like, True Athletics has been really great for us.
Yeah.
These are incredible blocks. They also have a lot of stuff in stock right now that nobody does. But
Like
there's
what?
Bars.
Okay.
Also, that bar you listed on today with the great
Barbells.
knurling. Yeah, super good barbells. They're jerk blocks. What's nice about these is they're light.
Are they based out of Texas?
They're not.
Oh, where they at?
So Jason Poth and a guy named
yeah,
Buster
yeah,
own
yeah,
it. He's out of Alabama, but all their product is out of Cali. So Buster lives in Cali. Jason lives in Alabama. These are really lightweight, which is super dope. I just love working with small businesses. So, we talked about Danny with Onyx. Like, dude, that guy.
Love that guy.
That guy's been huge. He's been super helpful. So,
well, I don't have any sponsors, so promo whoever the hell you want.
Yeah, no. I mean, True Athletics is dope. Like I said, Onyx. I just like working with people.
Yeah.
People out there just trying to do the same thing I'm doing. That's about it.
Yeah, support the sport.
Nah, for sure. And that's what's huge is there's not enough attention to the sport in general. It's like when you talk to someone, like I remember talking to someone at the bank when we were opening a business account, and they're like, "Oh, like good luck at the Olympics," and I'm like, "God, like no." Like.
Yep.
Just more general knowledge to the sport is always a win.
Yeah, we stayed at Vicky's friend's house last night, and we were having breakfast one morning. She was like, "So what lifts is it?" And I was like, "A snatch and the clean and jerk."
Right.
She was like, "Oh,
that's fascinating."
That means nothing to me.
Right. So one of my athletes coaches a high school women's team out of Florida.
That's dope.
And she's like been struggling really hard with getting like the head coach who's a football coach to even like let her take the reins and take control because people just don't understand that like it's not just like power snatch, power clean from football.
You don't mean it's not 100% hang power clean while in running shoes?
It's not. And there's not, everyone doesn't power jerk. There's also a thing called a split jerk.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But anyway, just, if you're interested, reach out. I've even told people like, hey, if you just want me to check out a video, like whatever, that's cool. I'm just down to help people, man.
That's
whatever
honest.
that means.
Dope. Well, if there's anything obviously we can do to let you know, let us know.
Word.
We're in Texas, kind of medium far.
Just up 35 a bit.
Yeah, but we're around. I try to go to everything.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like to.
I mean, I told Will we need to add money to the South Texas Invitational just so you'll come.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I want to do. I love lifting for prize money.
I'm like, hey, Will, how much money do you think we can put on this Declare winner so Megan comes and does our meet? She's like, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I would show up.
Oh, I know. I mean, that's why we're going to get you there.
Yeah.
We're going to be like, all right, how much money can we throw at it?
Yeah.
So we're hosting a meet August 8th. It's
my birthday's the 9th.
Perfect. It's actually for your birthday.
It's not.
We weren't supposed to tell you.
34th.
Vicky's been keeping it a secret.
Yeah, low key.
Low key secret. So actually the money is for your birthday. It's not for winning Sinclair. Anyway, yeah, so we're hosting.
Maybe if we could find somebody with a boat, it would just be worth it in general.
Like host the meet on the boat?
No, just like the next. Is it a Saturday?
Yeah.
Like Sunday, maybe.
We could probably. Anybody have a boat?
From with a boat.
Anyway, so yeah, we're hosting a meet. We're offering discount codes to teams just because I love when teams come. We are already halfway sold out, which is pretty wild. So if you want to hop in, let us know. If not, there are multiple meets going on right around in August here. I know Robert Ronan with Awesome Barbells hosting me on August 1st. Dave Griffin's hosting one the 15th. So if you need to get in on a meet, there's literally one the 1st, 8th, and 15th in South Texas. So sign up for something.
Dope.
Cool.
Thanks for being on our show.
Word. All right.